Winter in the mountains isn't just cold, it's alive, and sometimes it doesn't let you leave. I'm about to tell you 3 true stories that have stayed with me for years. Stories that prove nature doesn't care how experienced you are, how prepared you think you are, or how badly you want to survive. These aren't legends, these aren't campfire tales, these are real people, real rescues, real deaths, and real things that just can't be explained. If you're planning a winter hike this season, you might want to wait until after you hear these. Subscribe to the channel and let's begin. I was kayaking in southern Siberia in August 1993, the Karmadabin Mountains. Beautiful area, crystal clear rivers, stunning scenery. It was supposed to be a peaceful trip. Then we heard the screaming. At first, I thought it was an animal, high-pitched, raw, primal, but then I saw her. A teenage girl came stumbling out of the tree line, barefoot, covered in blood. Her clothes were torn, her face was pale, her eyes were wild. She was screaming in Russian. I don't speak Russian, but I know terror when I see it. We pulled our kayaks to the shore and ran to her. She collapsed in my arms. She was freezing, shaking violently, hyperventilating. One of my friends spoke Russian. He tried to calm her down, asking her what happened. She kept saying the same things over and over. They're dead, they're dead, they bled from their eyes. Her name was Valentina Tochenko. She was 17 years old. She'd been hiking with 6 friends. They'd been in the mountains for 3 days and everything was fine, until it wasn't. According to Valentina, they were descending from a peak when the weather turned. Freezing rain, high winds, temperatures dropped below freezing. They made camp, tried to start a fire, couldn't. And that's when Alexander started screaming. He was 23, the oldest in the group besides their leader. Valentina said he suddenly grabbed his throat, started choking, gasping, then blood poured from his nose, his ears, his eyes. He was frothing at the mouth. Their leader, Ludmila, a 41-year-old hiking legend with years of experience, ran to help him. And that's when she started bleeding too. Valentina said it happened so fast, one by one, they all collapsed. Tatyana, 24, started clawing at her neck like she couldn't breathe. Then she ran to the rock and bashed her own head against it, over and over, until she stopped moving. The others, Dennis, 19, Victoria, 16, Timur, 15, they just dropped dead. Just dropped where they stood. All of them bleeding from their eyes, nose, ears and mouth. All of them dead within minutes. Valentina ran. She ran down the mountain, through the trees, for 4 days. She said she didn't know why she survived. She was the furthest from the group when it started. Maybe that's why. We took her to the police. They sent a recovery team into the mountains. 2 weeks later, they found the bodies. The autopsies were inconclusive. The official report said hypothermia and starvation, but that doesn't explain the bleeding. That doesn't explain why they died within minutes when they'd been fine moments before. Some people think it was a nerve agent. The Soviet Union used to test chemical weapons in Siberia. Maybe there was still residue in the soil, in the water. Others think it was infrasound. Extreme winds can create sound waves below human hearing. Inaudible but deadly, causes panic, hallucinations, organ failure. Or maybe it was just the cold. Extreme hypothermia can cause strange things. Paradoxical undressing, terminal burrowing, violent behaviour. But I've never heard of hypothermia making people bleed from their eyes. 25 years later, a reporter tracked down Valentina. She was living in Kazakhstan, married. She never told her husband about what happened in those mountains. When the reporter asked her about it, she was hostile. She asked why they were bringing it up again, said she spent decades trying to forget, but eventually she agreed to the interview. And her story had changed. She said there was no blood, she said there was no screaming, she said they just died, quietly, from the cold. The reporter pressed her, showed her the police reports from 1993, her original testimony, the part about the blood, the eyes, the screaming. Valentina stared at the report for a long time. Then she said, "I don't remember saying that." The interview ended shortly after. I think about that day a lot. The girl covered in blood, the screaming, the terror in her eyes, and I think about that interview, the way she changed her story, the way she insisted there was no blood. What if she wasn't lying in 1993? What if something happened in those mountains? Something so horrific that her mind rewrote the memory just so she could survive it? Or worse, what if she wasn't lying in 2018 either? What if something followed her down from those mountains? And what if, after 25 years, it finally made her forget? I've been with Sierra Nevada Search and Rescue for 23 years. I've pulled bodies from crevices. I've found hikers who froze to death. I've seen what avalanches do to the human body. But I will never forget Anna Conrad's hand reaching through the snow. It was March 31st, 1982, Alpine Meadow Ski Resort near Lake Tahoe. A blizzard had been hammering the Sierra Nevada for 4 days straight. 8 feet of snow in less than a week. The resort was closed, too dangerous. But employees still had to work. Anna was a 22-year-old lift operator. She was walking back to the locker room to meet her boyfriend when the mountain let go. The avalanche hit the building like a freight train. 7 people were buried. 7. We started searching immediately, found 6 bodies within the first 2 days. But not Anna. By day 3, we knew she was dead. No one survives that long under avalanche debris. The pressure alone crushes your ribcage. You suffocate within minutes, if you're lucky. By day 4, the search becomes a recovery operation. We were just looking for her body at that point, and then we got another storm. 4 more feet of snow fell overnight. The debris field was now 12 feet deep in some places. It would be weeks before we could recover her remains, maybe months. We had to wait for the spring melt. On the 5th day, Wednesday, April the 5th, we were doing one final sweep with the dogs before calling it off for the season. One of the dogs, a German shepherd named Bridget, it started digging, frantically, whining, barking. We thought she found another body. We started digging, shoveling, using probes. The snow was dense, heavy, wet, and then we saw it. A hand, pale, blue, fingers moving. She's alive! Someone screamed. We dug deeper. We dug faster. Our hands were bleeding, but we didn't care. When we finally pulled her out, she was smiling. Her lips were cracked and black with frostbite. Her face was grey. Her eyes were sunken, but she was smiling. "I knew you'll find me," she whispered. We got her to the hospital. Severe hypothermia, dehydration, frostbite so bad they had to amputate her right leg below the knee, and all of the toes on her left foot. But she survived. 5 days buried under 12 feet of snow. Later, after she'd recovered enough to talk, we asked her what it was like. She said she woke up the day after the avalanche. She didn't remember the impact, just woke up in total darkness. Her head was pounding from a concussion. She could barely move. She was trapped in a small pocket, maybe 5 feet long, 3 feet wide, 2 feet high. She could hear us. That's the part that gets me. She could hear us. She heard the helicopters. She heard the search team calling her name. She heard us walking right over her dozens of times. She tried to scream, but her voice was too weak. The snow was too thick. So she just waited. She said the worst part wasn't the cold. It wasn't the hunger. It wasn't even the fear of dying. It was hearing us give up. On day 4, she heard one of the coordinators, my supervisor at the time, say, "She's gone. We're not going to find her alive." She heard us talking about her funeral. She heard us laughing, telling jokes to keep morale up during the search. And she couldn't do anything but lie there in the dark and just wait. When we finally pulled her out, she said the first thing she heard clearly was Bridget barking, and then my voice saying, "She's alive." She said that was the best sound she's ever heard. Anna still lives near Lake Toho. She still skis. She has prosthetics now. She says the avalanche didn't define her life, but I stay in touch with her, have for over 40 years, and there's something she once told me late at night over whiskey that she'd never told anyone else. She said sometimes when she's skiing alone, she hears voices, faint, distant, calling her name. "Anna, Anna, we're coming for you." But when she stops and listens, there's no one there. She says it sounds exactly like us, the search team, calling her name, like we did for 4 days while she was buried. She asked me if I thought it was PTSD, trauma, her brain replaying the experience. I told her it probably was. But here's the thing, I was the one calling her name, for hours, every day. My voice went hoarse from screaming into the snow, and I don't ever remember saying, "We're coming for you." I said, "Anna, if you can hear us, make a sound." I said, "Anna, we're here, we're looking," but never, "We're coming for you." So I asked myself, whose voice was she hearing? I'm a conservation officer with New Hampshire Fish and Game. I've been doing mountain rescues for 16 years. June the 18th, 2025 is a day I'll never forget. We got a call at 6:30 p.m. A hiker on Mount Washington was in trouble. His wife had called 911 after receiving a text from him. The text said, "I'm cold and wet. I feel I will die without rescue." It was June. People don't understand Mount Washington. They hear New Hampshire and think, oh, it's the East Coast. How bad can it be? Well, Mount Washington is called the home of the world's worst weather for a reason. It holds the record for the highest wind speed ever recorded on Earth's surface, 231 miles per hour. It gets snow every month of the year. More than 160 people have died on that mountain since 1849, and in June 2025, it decided to bring winter back. The hiker's name was Chi Chen. He was 53, from Massachusetts. He summited 19 of New Hampshire's 4,000-foot peaks. He wasn't a beginner. He was attempting the Presidential Traverse, a brutal 23-mile trek across the Presidential Range. Most people do it in the summer, in good weather. Chi chose June the 18th. That morning, the forecast was bad, really bad. High winds, freezing temperatures, rain, sleet, snow above 4,000 feet. But Chi went anyway. By 6:30 p.m, he was hypothermic, alone, on the Gulfside Trail near Mount Clay. We assembled a team immediately. Mountain Rescue Service, conservation officers, state park personnel. We loaded into a state truck with tyre chains. The only vehicle that could make it up the auto road, because the road was covered in ice. In June, the winds were gusting at 80 miles per hour. We left the base at 9:30 p.m. Another team followed at 10:30. The temperature at the summit was 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill was in the single digits. I've done winter rescues in January that were warmer than this. We fought our way up the mountain. Visibility was near zero. Rain, sleet, snow, all at once. The wind was so strong it knocked us off our feet multiple times. We found Chi at 10:38 p.m. He was lying on the trail, curled in a fetal position. His eyes were open, but he wasn't responding. Severe hypothermia. We built an emergency shelter, tried to warm him up, put him in a sleeping bag, heat packs, everything we had. But his core temperature was too low. We carried him to the summit, loaded him into the truck, and raced him down the auto road. We transferred him to an ambulance at the base, rushed him to the hospital. Doctors worked on him for hours. CPR, warm blankets, IV fluids, defibrillator. Nothing worked. Chi Chen was pronounced dead at 2:47 a.m. His wife was at the hostel, waiting. She told us he was an experienced hiker, careful, prepared. She showed us the last text he sent her, 6:24 p.m. I'm cold and wet. I feel I will die without rescue. 6 minutes later, she called 911. We reached him 4 hours after that text, and it still wasn't fast enough. But here's what haunts me. We weren't the only rescue that night. 3 other hikers called for help on Mount Washington that same evening. All hypothermic, all unprepared for winter conditions, in June. One hiker was saved by members of the Randolph Mountain Club. They carried her to safety. Another was rescued after a group of strangers gave him warm clothes and helped him down. But she didn't make it. Why? He was experienced. He had gear, he had GPS, he had a phone. He did everything right, except for turning back. The mountain gives you signs, the wind, the cold, the ice. It tells you to go back, and if you don't listen, it kills you. Chi Chen became the 161st person to die on Mount Washington. His wife still has that text. I'm cold and wet. I feel I will die without rescue. She told a reporter she reads it every day. She said it's the last thing her husband ever said to her. And she said sometimes, late at night, her phone buzzes. A new text from Chi's number. It's always the same thing. I'm still cold. The phone company says it's impossible. His account was closed. His phone was found on his body. But the texts keep coming, and they're always sent at 6:24 p.m, the exact time she sent his last message.